Sorry,
So
guys.
you're good. So that's kind of been my experience so far. And I know that other people, there is this issue. And I would say in my position that I'm in now, if I do experience that, it's mostly within the construction side of things. Like whenever I go to site, I have issues with people blowing me off and not listening to the things I say. And I don't really know the answer to it. I'm still trying to navigate how to work through that.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember Brie told me this story once where was it your internship or were you interviewing for someone in Shreveport? You want to share that one? I mean, you don't have to.
I won't name names, but I did interview for an internship probably after my second year of school, from the town from my hometown. And basically I sat down with this guy who owned this firm, and within 2 minutes of meeting him, he basically told me I would never succeed in architecture or be an architect because I was a woman. So that has probably been the strongest like slap in the face with a man versus a woman in the field.
Right. But she got sweet revenge because at that ceremony, yeah. We have to have a happy ending here.
Yeah, I mean, 2 years later, I accepted my internship in New York and was about to leave for that, and then was awarded the AI Shreveport scholarship. And at that banquet, he had to award it to me. So.
Oh, nice.
So we're going places.
Yeah, everyone's like, yes, satisfied with that good ending. No, I think, do you guys have stories? I know we're still fairly new to the workplace, but do you have a story where maybe someone is giving you grief, right? Were you able to say something, like stand up for yourself, or have you found yourself in a position like that? And like, how do you react? And then maybe how do people around you react? What is that kind of like?
I would say building off of like what I mentioned earlier, whenever like I go to site and, I have those issues, I think I'm in a good place with my job where I am surrounded by people who do advocate for me. I mean, they are other men, but it's good to have that in your back pocket and have them acknowledge that those things are going on. And it's a good thing to have whenever you're still trying to figure it out yourself.
Right.
I think everybody kind of knows, like, you've lived your life as like female presenting, you are a woman, and like people just treat you differently in certain situations, as like Brie was talking about in construction, because it's so male dominated. It's just an assumption that you don't understand, or the reason that you do understand is because a man taught you that. And it's like small things. It doesn't have to be so blatantly like against women, but it's just like, oh, like I happen to have said that same thing, but you're giving this person the recognition. Or it's like, oh, I happen to do the same thing, but only this is being rewarded. It's not being treated the same. And then like sometimes you're like, is that just me being like too over observant about a situation, or is it like this is consistently happening where situations are not consistent and stuff like that? So I mean, I'm sure everyone has like a story of something that has happened to them or their friend or something like that you're like, this is biased, or people are not recognizing this or like acknowledging it. And so I think it is really important to learn how to advocate for yourself and others, especially for younger people coming into the field. Like, I am happy to be working at a firm that has a majority woman working in it, which is really awesome because we can talk about things that normally people wouldn't be talking about. So that's nice.
That's really rare too.
It is. So I got lucky with that. At the time that I joined, it wasn't really like that, but it was just the the candidate pool happened to be a majority of women, so that was awesome, and they happened to get hired. So we're like 5-3. We're still a small firm, but it is nice to be like, I understand what you're going through if you're like on your period this week, or like, you know, the things that we would understand just having lived as a woman.
Right.
Right. I would definitely say that due to some questions that I've asked in my interview process, I, like Judy said, I looked up with a firm that, you know, does have that in the rotation of conversation as far as valuing women and women in leadership and things like that. So within the firm, it's a very beautiful dynamic between, you know, men and women. However, just like what Brie said, just because you're at a good firm that, you know, treats women equally doesn't mean that your consultants, that the people that you're working with are going to be the same. And so like I talk mainly to our interior designer consultant, and, you know, we always think that interior designers is mainly female dominated, but this is a majority male firm. And this is the first time we've ever seen this before. So I think a lot of times with them, they come off a lot more aggressive because, you know, they're trying to prove a point that, you know, men can do this too, type of thing. But at the same time, you know, I even had a point to where I had to tell my team leader, like, hey, like, this is a little different for me. This is, I don't know, it just felt very aggressive. And so going back to, you know, do you have people around you that are advocating for you or helping you so that you're not fighting a fight by yourself when you don't have to, especially when you have women and like supporters around you. And so she came on the call with me the next time and, like, you know, made sure that, you know, things were aligning, and it hasn't happened since, which is very, very beautiful, I would say. So like having advocates and having people that feel just as strongly about equality in the workplace just as you do.
Yeah, that's good advice. I think so. Being observant and surrounding yourself with people that are like-minded and can see that and help you is really, really helpful. I saw something the other day that was talking about boundaries, and I know Judy mentioned that a second ago, but when it comes to work boundaries, and I feel like we can include this as well, like as people of color and women of color, like what is our experience right in the workplace? And oftentimes I think minorities are taught, like, you know, lay low, just do your work, get in, get out, and like your work will speak for itself, right? And that I think is the case for school a lot of the time. I felt like I didn't necessarily have to like be the face of my project, just the quality of it could speak for itself. But sometimes in the workplace, if you set up like a boundary, or you set up like as your persona is like meek and quiet, like people will take advantage of that. So if you don't necessarily have to be like right in the door in their face about it, but when someone steps on your toes, right, and knows that they're doing it, you, in that small act, need to be able to say, don't treat me like that, right? And when you do that, people will understand that that's your boundary and they will stop it. But if you like go for, I don't know, maybe you're at this firm for a year and you think being like soft and meek and just getting your work done will like get you the respect that you need, if that makes sense, or the respect that you want as a person in the workplace, more often than not, people are going to see that you're quiet and and meek, and see that as meek, right? And take advantage of that and like try to step over you or on you to get to the next place. So it's like, even in studio spaces, even in like school and education, you can start advocating for yourself in really small ways. Like it doesn't have to be like having a presentation like this and being a speaker and being like a very like visible advocate, if that makes sense. It's just like in your personal life, looking at, I don't know, your peer next to you that keeps putting trash all over your desk or near your desk and is not respecting your space, and saying, look, clean up your space, or there's going to be consequences, whatever that may be. I don't know. Hopefully not physical violence, but like there's something there, right? Like you need to be able to set that boundary. And if you just practice that in small spaces, like you'll feel more and more comfortable being able to speak up for yourself in a bigger space as well.
Yes,
You
I
guys-
agree with that.
Mhm.
To piggyback off of that, it's just small steps to make sure you're comfortable. Like I mentioned, when I started, I was very nervous to speak and like be myself in any type of way, right? It's like, yes, I will, you need that done, I will do it. You need that done in this time, I will do it. You need that done, like, like just like a yes person, because you're nervous of like your station at work and your I guess how people are viewing you like in a professional sense. But it's like if you can't find it in yourself to say something for yourself, you can always start with somebody else. Like if your coworker somebody speaks over them, you can look at them in the meeting and say, what did you say? Like just to back them up. And it doesn't have to call out the other person directly, but it's just like, hey, this person was speaking first. I'm going to give them my attention because you spoke out of turn, kind of thing. It's like small things like that. It's like, I have your back. We're good. Like, let's get back on track.
Yes, I really like that. I feel like if you're observant at all, you might see someone else struggling with the same types of like behavior, right? In either studio or your workplace. You're like, that person needs someone to back them up. And you can be that person, right? Like you can support them in that meeting. I think Brie and I did this a lot, like in probably every group project that we were in, we would like bounce off of each other and say like, what do you think, Brie? And like directing attention to Brie, like if someone is not getting enough speaking time, right? Or like directing attention to something that Brie said and maybe someone repeated it, but I want to give like the credit to Brie, right? I'm like, that was a really good idea, Brie. Like, thank you. And I know that seems silly, like, because we're kind of mock in like the scenario, but in a meeting that is so reassuring, like when you have that backup, either from a peer or even from a stranger, if you don't know them, but you see that they might need help in that space. Sorry, I'm talking too much. You guys go ahead.
No, that's very beautiful. I completely agree. I really do.
Yeah. All right. If we don't have, do you guys have any questions so far? I think that was, do you have a question? Jalea has a question. Do you want to come up and ask? Okay, we have someone coming up. One moment. If you guys have questions, please raise your hand. Let me know. Otherwise, I'm just gonna keep talking.